Lesson 1, Sources of Law. So in jurisprudence, interpretation and general laws, the first lesson is a very good lesson because it gives you the foundation not only for this subject but for the full company secretary course law subjects. So it is very good that they've added this lesson in your new syllabus. Many students feel, what is this jurisprudence? Why have they put this? Why should we study? It is one of the basics of law. So jurisprudence is like the theory of law. What is the sources of law? What is right? What is wrong? What is right in rem? What is right in person name? These are some of the concepts which we study over here. So we start by what is the definition of law? How do you define law? What according to you is law? In fact, you just think, what is law according to you? Each one has a definition. Same way in our CS program, they have tried to give you what is the definition according to the famous jurists. Then after we study what is the definition of law, we should know how is law made, from where did law come, what are the kinds of law, and why they have put this first lesson in your first paper is because if you know this, you will understand all the 8 subjects, what is the law, how the law is there, why we have this. And in fact, ICSI has even told openly that they have put the first subject jurisprudence because that is the base. So if you are taking module 2 first, they say it is better you take module 1 first because you know what is law. In this subject you study everything about law, basics of law, administrative law, then law of torts, evidence, civil law, criminal law, all the basic concepts of law we are going to study. Then we come to company law, then we come to setting up of business, then we come to tax laws, then we come to economic and commercial laws, security laws. All this we are studying in this entire CS executive program. So for all that, this is a foundation. So after we know what is the definition of law, we should know what are the sources of law. That means from where do we frame the laws? What is the sources? The first source is customary law or from customs and practices. What has happened over many years? That is one of the source. For example, Hindu law is a customary law. What has been practiced from many hundreds of years, we are making it into law. We may even codify it. Codify it is making it into an act or a particular structure. So we have Hindu Marriage Act. It is a codified law of the Hindu law which was there from many hundreds of years. So after we know the customary law, then the other source for law, from where do we frame the laws? It is the legislation or what we call as the acts and the ordinances which is passed by the legislature. So we know very well legislature, executive, judiciary. So the legislation is the next source of law which is by the legislature. So the different legislations and different acts. Then we come to the actual judicial decisions, that is the case laws. Case laws or the decisions given by the court is another source of law. So these are just examples of the sources of law and how law has been framed with the help of all these sources, and this we are going to study in detail in this chapter. In sources, we study sources of Indian law, sources of English law. English law means the British law, and sources of mercantile law, because mercantile law or corporate law, these are all the laws which we are going to focus as a student of company secretary. And we study what is the meaning of decisions, what is the meaning of judicial precedents, and many interesting concepts like that. Juris means law and prudence means knowledge. So knowledge of law we can say is jurisprudence, or theory of law is jurisprudence. So these are general principles. Again, don't ask the question, sir, which act is it? Is it Companies Act 2030? It is not about act, it is principles. If I ask you which act is gravitation force, if I throw something up, it is going to come down. There is no act for it. It is basically a principle which is existing. Same way in law, jurisprudence is the legal theory or the knowledge of law which will help you to understand law. Like what is meaning of a right, what is the meaning of a duty, what is difference between right and duty. You have the basic idea, what is the meaning of right and what is the duty. So right is something which you can ask, but when you want to ask something, you have a duty to follow ABCD things. That is some example for you to understand, just to give you a brief overview of what is legal theory or jurisprudence. So we are going to study in brief what is jurisprudence and why jurisprudence is important for a company secretary student. Now let us try and understand all the sources of law and what is jurisprudence with the help of PPT diagrams. The first chapter in Jurisprudence, Interpretation and General Laws is the sources of law. From where do we get the law? And this is very basic and very important, because as a student of company secretary course, you will be studying multiple laws. In fact, company secretary course, we can say, is a corporate lawyer. You are studying all the kinds of corporate laws, and that is why your basics of law should be good. I am very happy with the subject, and they have introduced this subject mainly to help company secretary student to become perfect about the basics of law. In sources of law, we will understand first the nature and meaning of the law is described by various legal jurists and experts. Does it mean that is final? No, you can have your own definition also. Please be creative as a company secretary student. The sources of law, if you know, everything else becomes easy for you to understand. There are various definitions of law, and we can classify it into 5 different types: natural, positivistic, historical, sociological, and realistic. We cannot say anything is right or wrong. All are correct because it is the different definitions provided by different people. First, we come to the natural school of law. What do we say is law according to the natural school? Here, Alpine defined law as the art or science of what is equitable and good. So it is very simple. Law is anything which is equitable and good. Cicero said that law is the highest reason implanted in nature. So it is a natural school. So according to him, that is the highest reason implanted in nature. Yes. Justinian's Digest defines law as the standard of what is just and unjust, what is correct and wrong, what is justice, what is injustice. This comes under the Justinian's Digest. So which one is correct? We are not studying which is correct or wrong. We are studying basically what are the definitions of law, and it is classification into 5 types. In that we have the natural school. Please understand, in the above definitions, justice is the main thing, and that is what is propounded by the natural school. Ancient Hindu view was that law is the command of God and not of a political government or sovereign. God gives the law. That is the Hindu law and the Hindu understanding. Everybody, including the ruler, is bound to obey it. Even the king has to obey the law. The king is guided by the law which is given by God. Therefore, law is part of the dharma. The idea of justice is always present in the Hindu concept of law. If you look at any ancient kings in India, everybody said, we will be on the path of dharma. Whichever king you see, whichever part of India, the kings always told, our job is to make sure we don't go away from the path of dharma. We stick to the path of dharma, and our goal is dharma. Correct? That is why even in the natural school, it is the similar concept. Next, we have Salmond. Salmond defines law as the body of principles recognized and applied by the state in the administration of justice. So this is a very, very simple way of telling it, to administer the state. Okay. So what are the 2 factors? To understand law, one should know what is the purpose of the law. In order to ascertain the nature of the law, one should go to the court and not to the legislature. Court means the court's job is to interpret the law. We know that legislature, we have executive, we have judiciary. Legislature makes the law, executive executes the law, judiciary or the court interprets the law. Right? That is why, in order to ascertain the true nature of law, how is the law? Is the law really good? Is there no confusion in the law? Is the law helping people? We need to go to the court, because in the court we are interpreting the law. That is judiciary. Now we come to the positivistic definition of law. Here we say law is the aggregate or the sum of rules set by man as a politically superior or a sovereign. That is government or king. That is the government makes the law. That is the positivistic definition of law. So here we need to understand command of the sovereign. That is command of the king, command of the prime minister, chief minister, whatever. Therefore, the command, the duty and sanction are the three elements of law in the positivistic definition of law. Here, Kelsen gave a pure theory of law. So what he said is that law is a normative science, that is, the legal norms are ought norms as distinct from is norms. And this is what was told by Kelsen. Law does not attempt to describe what actually occurs but only prescribe certain rules. Law is giving rules. The science of law to Kelsen is the knowledge of hierarchy of normative relations. All norms derive their power from ultimate norm called the Grundnorm. This is important. Now we come to the historical definition of law. So here we need to understand the law is matter of unconscious and organic growth. That is why we say law is found and not made according to historical theory. Law is not universal in nature. Like language, it varies from people and age. Custom not only precedes legislation, but it is superior to it. Law should always conform to the popular consciousness. Law has its source in the common consciousness of the people. This is what is told by the historical definition of law. Legislation is the last stage of the lawmaking, and therefore the lawyer or the jurist is more important than the legislator, because they will interpret the law. The legislator is going to make the law. The lawyer or the jurist or the judge will interpret the law. They will solve the problem after the law is implemented. Next, we have the sociological definition of law. So it defines law as essentially and exclusively a social fact. Here we have one definition: the form of the guarantee of the conditions of life of society assured by a state's power of constraint. So there are three essentials. This definition says law is only a means of social control. Law is to serve the social purpose, and it is coercive in character. Coercive means forceful in character. This is the sociological definition of law. Again, this is a different way to look at it. Then we have the realist definition, where we say that law is a judicial process. Law is a statement of the circumstances in which public force will be brought to bear upon through courts. One more. A principle or rule of conduct so established as to justify a prediction with the reasonable certainty that it will be enforced by the courts if its authority is challenged is a principle or rule of law. This definition says law is a judicial process. Very simple. Now you don't have to remember all the definitions. You just try to remember two definitions from all the five theories. All the five together, if you remember two definitions, that is important, that is enough. But you should know what is each type of the definition. Next we come to the features of law. Law presupposes a state. The state makes or authorizes the law. State means government. For the rules to be effective, there are sanctions behind them, that is punishments. The rules are made to serve some purpose. The purpose may be social purpose or any other purpose. This is the main feature of law. Very, very important. If you write this for any answer, it is correct. It is so simple. Law presupposes a state. Yes, even the state has to listen to the law. The state makes or authorizes the law. They are only the tool. Correct? End of the day, people make the law. For the rules to be effective, there has to be punishment or sanction. And it is for some purpose. We make the law for some purpose. That purpose may be social or any other purpose. Laws are made effective, that is, requiring damages to be paid for an injury, requiring one in some instances complete obligation has failed to perform, by preventing disobedience, by administering some form of punishment. So laws are made effective by when we give a punishment, when we told what will happen if you don't follow the law, disobedience, by making sure that obligation has to be fulfilled and the damages has to be paid. So this way we can make the law is very effective and people will follow the law if they are scared of the law. Let us understand the significance of law. Law is not static and law is always changing. It changes with society, and laws are changed to give the needs of society, the requirement of society. See, we did not have mobile phone, we did not have
anything related to computer, laptop, there was no law. Then we have Information Technology Act 2000, which deals with all things related to information technology. Same way we have the concept of drones now. Drone, there was no law relating to drone because there was no drone, correct? Now if you have to fly a drone, you need to take the police permission. This is a new law because there were a lot of problems. People started using drones without permission, lot of security problems, lot of problem related to terrorism, all of that. So now if you want to own a drone, you need a license, plus you want to fly a drone, you need to inform the police. So that is why we say laws are changed to fit the requirement of society, the problems of society. Object of law is to form an order which in turn provides for hope in the security of the future. Now let us look at the sources of Indian law, from where we derive Indian law. So please understand, the modern Indian law, we can look at it as the principal sources and the secondary sources. There are two types. Principal source means customary law, judicial decisions, statutes, that is acts, and personal law. Customary means something which has been followed from ancient practices from many years, and this is what we call as customary. So if a law has been followed from many years, see for example in India we protect cows because even in our tradition we respect cows and we also worship cows. So now if we have a law which is anti this thing, what is that, butchering of cows, that is if you slaughter cows. So we have the anti-cow slaughter. So we should not kill cows because traditionally as a custom in India, it is considered as God and things like that. So let us look at it. The Smritis have strongly recommended that custom should be followed and recognized. So for any law, our history, our custom, our culture is important. That is why that is also a source of law. So customs can be without sanction and customs can be with sanction. So no matter what, we need to follow the customs. So when we have customs with sanction, it can be legal or conventional customs. Both these are there, and classification of customs can be done based on the sanction and without sanction. When we look at legal customs, these are operating which have a binding rule of the law. They have been recognized and enforced by the courts and they become part of the law of the land. So legal customs are two kinds, local customs and general customs. And now let us look at local custom. Local custom which is only in particular locality, and that is in that place only that custom is being practiced by certain community or certain sects of people. Now there are also local customs. So local customs can further be divided into geographical local custom and personal local custom. Geographical means in which area they are doing. Personal is maybe based on religion or caste or which profession they are doing, things like that. These customs are only for a particular locality, section or community. So please remember, we need to look at it very carefully. Customs or customary law, that is the ancient which has been practiced from many years. In that we have without sanction and with sanction. In that we have legal. In legal we have local and general customs. In local customs we can have geographical local customs or personal local customs. Next we come to the general customs. General customs is within the country and all parts of the country we are following this custom. So the common law in England is equated with the general customs of the realm. But in India it is a unity in diversity. So we have multiple customs from multiple places. Now we go further to conventional customs. This we call as usages. So these customs are due to agreement between the parties and not due to the legal authority. So before a court treats conventional custom as incorporated in a contract, the following conditions have to be satisfied. This is again important for exam. You will get 3 to 4 marks question relating to this. So what is this? We need to look at the following conditions if we have to treat something as a conventional custom. It must be shown that the convention is clearly established and it is fully known to both the parties who is entering in the contract. There is no fixed period for which a convention must have been observed before it is recognized as binding. Convention cannot alter the general law of the land. It must be reasonable. So your convention cannot be opposite Constitution of India. Your convention cannot be opposite the Indian Contract Act. This is very important for us to know. What is a valid custom? Again, 3 marks question, sometimes 2 marks question. What is a valid custom? Custom will be valid at law and will have binding force only if it fulfills the condition. First thing, it should be antiquity, immemorial. From many years, they should tell my grandfather, great-grandfather has been following. It is ancient. Certainty. The custom must be certain and definite and must not be vague. You cannot say from last month we started this is our custom. No, it should be from many years. It should be immemorial and it should be completely certain. It should be reasonable. It should be compulsory observance should be there and conformity with law and public morality. So the custom must be from many years. It should be certain. It should be reasonable. It should not be against the principles of justice. It should be justice, equity, good conscience. It should be compulsory. That should everybody in that class are following it. And conformity with law and public morality. You cannot have a custom which is against India or against some act in India. Anything which is forbidden, you cannot have it as a law. Further, in the custom must be unanimity of opinion. It should be peacefully enjoyed. That is, the custom must be enjoyed peacefully without any dispute of law. And the custom must be consistent. You cannot change the rule every time. The custom must be consistently followed. So this is what we call requisites of a valid custom. These are the 8 points you should know.